Just years ago, they did drawings to make Airbnb. Yeah.
Hello?
Two daughters, and each one is,
So I needed another.
but he still has
something.
Oh my God.
In there. That's usually when I start
Let him go.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Road is fine.
something.
Something. His family's down there. He just wants to. I know. I lived in Florida for 18 years. He was ready to go. And,
You can have a
and
seat.
he's really-
We have a few things some business to
he's
do
really
first.
worked out. Like,
I know this place will do that to the best people, I know.
it does. I mean, he just had so much responsibility, and it was.
All right, should we?
Yeah, we can get started.
Okay, good morning. This is the Syracuse Landmark Preservation Board meeting of April 3rd. Present at meeting are
Nicole Fragnito.
Kyle Gregory.
Julia Marshall,
Jeff Romano.
Hillary Donahue.
Martha Hertzberg from the Corporation Counsel's Office.
Kate Auetter, Preservation Planner.
may I have a motion to accept the minutes of March 13th?
I move to accept the minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any modifications? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any oppositions, abstentions? The minutes are adopted. Okay. We do not have a public meeting, so.
Go directly
like
into
to-
old business. Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so the first application on the agenda is CA 25. I don't think these are, okay, Caleb's coming to turn up the volume. Oh, no, it's fine. We'll talk loud. Yeah, it should be recording, yeah.
Yeah, he says the recording works and has the sound, but we're not projecting well to the audience.
The meeting is being recorded. So, first application is a certificate of appropriateness, 409 Sedgwick Drive. It's a window replacement project in the Sedgwick Highland James Preservation District. Now, Jeff Romano and Kyle Gregory and I went to for a site visit. It was held over from the last meeting, pending additional information in a site visit to go and take a look at the windows firsthand. And I actually open it up to both you and Kyle to say what you found about the.
The windows were actually we felt in pretty good condition. They just needed a little bit of cleanup, but they operated smoothly. The original construction and design of the windows was very well thought out, well fabricated. They had the appropriate sealing and water shedding measures. Overall, we tried several of them and they operated fine. They mostly just looked like they needed cleaned up.
Are they wood?
They are wood.
Okay.
Yep, they're original to the house. There's 4 small ones at the attic level that needed a little bit more attention. But all in all, pretty good condition. It sounded like they just were having a hard time weighing between the initial quote that they'd been given for replacement and the cost, for refurbishment and replacement. But it sounds like maybe Kate has given them another potential contact who might be a better fit for the refurbishment.
Yeah, there is a new business that has set up in the valley. That's their sole focus is window restoration, and they are having her come in. And actually, they said their plan was to have her refurbish one of the windows to see the quality of her work. And then, anyway, long and short of it is that they did ask the board to continue to hold the application open while they're awaiting their work with this new contractor.
You share a list of contractors that you have with the board in terms of if there's
Yep.
someone new?
Yep,
Okay,
absolutely,
That would be helpful.
absolutely.
So we'll hold that to another meeting.
Yeah, and if they do determine that they're going to refurbish the windows rather than replace, then the certificate of appropriateness can be withdrawn. Yeah. The next application also held over from last meeting was 400 Burnett Avenue. This is a major site plan review 2501, 400 Burnett Avenue. It's a new storefront, entrance doors and frames. The property is listed on the National Register, and the property owner is here today, and he did bring some plans.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name's Tom Hornstein. I reside at 5989 Bay Hill Circle, Janesville, New York. I'd like to start out with a couple pictures. First one says Papa Horn and Little Horn. And that's who's going to be in charge of the building, not me. But then the second one is, I don't know if you've all been down there, but the state tore down all the trees
Yeah.
to the east,
Yeah, yeah.
which really opened up not only the property, but, Burnett Ave.
Yeah, yeah.
And then that's going to the west.
Yep.
So I didn't have those pictures.
Yeah, we have the pictures on the drawing there.
Yeah. Amber?
Amber, if you have the,
No, I don't think
These ones I'm not sure were in the packet.
oh,
Right.
yeah, 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 correct,
Yeah,
correct.
that would have been this view.
Yes.
So, my son and I bought this property about 5 years ago, and we had it fully tenantized, and I had an antique store on the corner, and things were going okay. The city and the neighbors weren't real excited about the property being occupied. It hasn't been occupied for 60 years. 1962, the corner building was shut down, and the upper level where the train cars came in to get fixed was shut down. So I got the whole thing rented, but not through cooperation from anybody but the bank. So the bank helped me do it. So in May, we had a small fire in here. Person was in there cooking when he shouldn't have been cooking, but only 10% of the building was destroyed, and the city shut the whole building down. Don't know why.
So the board, this project is here in front of the Landmark Preservation Board because of some exterior alterations that you're proposing let's see, there are two new entrances,
Storefront
right?
facade.
Well, but
Yeah,
I'm getting to that.
Okay.
So then they shut the whole building down, and then are making me go in for major site plan approval, even though the building's been there since 1936. So, I'm a little adversarial on this. But in the meantime, I had already put these plans in, and if you look at all the plans, we had everything taken care of, and we also had what I call a coordinated sign plan for the whole building. So I used to be the vice president of real estate of Raymore and Flanagan Furniture all over the Northeast, and I would go into towns and not just ask for one sign for each tenant. I had a coordinated sign plan for the whole center. So that was all on their plate. That was all there to go, and they've keep rejecting it right now. So got a few things that we had to modify, and we sent them in. So a couple of the things that we may ask for a variance on, they have a rule that there's only one curb cut per property. However, I have 400 through 448 address, and if I only get one curb cut for the middle atrium, then I don't have a curb cut for the eastern end, which has a garage door. So how do the people get into that garage door without a curb cut? So we're going to ask for a variance for that curb cut. And they've asked us for, a fence and gates, which I think it's a pretty good idea, because, you know, we have a lot of people. Let's say my dump costs here in 5 years have been over $5,000. Tires, couches, even though the neighborhood doesn't like me, they use me when they can. I come down there on a weekly basis. So the windows are the same. The openings are the same. You know, we just modify them as the tenants need them modified. So I think I answered the question about both ends and east and the middle.
For this particular application, I believe the only change that was being noted were these two new aluminum storefront entrances on the eastern end of the building. Are you able to talk about?
Those are proposed, and you know, right now we're not planning on doing them. I have a tenant to the right that has a doorway and a garage door, and I have a tenant to the left that has a garage door and a man door. That was just if somebody wanted, to have a Burnett presence, but I can see where that gets a little confusing, but those are not mandatory.
Okay.
We just put them up there to make the building look a little nicer for the tenants. So we can take those off if.
So to be clear, this project is before us for the two doors?
For those two? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I can simplify it by taking those off. And come back someday if I need them.
I think maybe that is when you're prepared, if you have tenants that need those entrances. I don't know if the board would like to make any comments about inserting the doors there, or what type of information you would need then at a later date.
I mean, again, like I think I mentioned in the last meeting, I would like to see a little bit more information on just enlarged elevations of those, material. I see their aluminum color, any information you can give us more on how those would look in relation to the other existing openings in the building would be useful to see.
Yeah, so.
Okay. I would say then,
I would say hold off.
we'll hold off, and if at a later date you have tenants that need those, then we'll revisit these plans with you.
Yeah, I'm pretty cognizant of the fact that when I do new openings, I have to get, new approvals from the city, but I am sure I have to get approvals from the national, from the historic side of things.
Just the exterior alterations.
Yeah, we haven't changed much.
Yeah, yeah.
What may happen if I can go one more step. Okay, that's the
Corner Catherine.
three-level building. So each one of these has a garage door, and the city's proposing curb out here so people can't use the garage door. Now, how they take my garage doors away from me, I don't know. But I've already come to the realization that may happen. Then I come back to you, because then I do need storefronts here instead of garage doors. So, remember, it'll be, okay, I gotta give up driving in, so now
Right.
I have to put doors on. But again, that's
Not right
So
now.
I think we should hold off.
Yeah, we'll hold off comment and, yeah. Well, thank you for.
we're good.
Thank you for your
You
time.
guys can all keep that plan if you want. And,
No, that's okay.
you want me to take it?
Okay, we'll keep it.
I'm sure I'll be back to see you soon. Let's hope it's before my grandson turns 2.
All right.
Oh, yeah, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Okay, the next application, if I may move on to new business, is a demolition of a non-landmarked historic resource. Application number 2502, 318 Euclid Avenue. It's demolition in preparation for new construction. The house at 318, or the property at 318 Euclid, is listed in the National Register of Historic Places as a contributing structure within the newly designated Westcott University neighborhood, National Register District. The role of the board this morning is to consider whether or not the property has sufficient, hold on, let me get my notes here so I can. Based on the information that the applicant has provided, the role of the board is to determine either that the property has significant historical associations and integrity sufficient to warrant initiating the individual protected site designation process, or that the property is ineligible for designation as an individual protected site based on the lack of significance or historical associations or lack of historic integrity. Or, of course, you can hold the application open pending additional information. And depending on the board's decision, you will or you will then not move to the next application, which is a major site plan review for the new construction. So
And we
with
do
that,
have to vote.
yeah, I think there should be a resolution. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And in your packet also, you do have the criteria included,
Well, I was just
the
gonna
criteria
say,
for.
should we go through, well, first if there's comment from the board, initial comment, and then go through each of the criteria and see if.
Yep. Yep. So with that, I believe Jared is here. Yeah, Lucy. No, they will take action. Yes. No, okay, sorry. You're up.
Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, good morning. I'm Jared McCormick. I'm with DM Architectural, 225 Wilkinson Street in Syracuse. Do you want me to just run through the application, or?
Probably run through your request for demolition and anything significant about the project, but not the new project. 'Cause
Okay. Yeah, so in the application, you see, so as I outlined in there, this building at 308, actually it's not 308, it's 318. It's been bugging me since I saw that picture.
Yeah.
So this was built in 1910. It was a builder-designed home. It was the third structure built on that block of between 302 and 320. It's a two-story wood frame, as depicted in the picture and noted in the, I think in this caption, and then in some other documents I found. It was a stucco-clad first floor with shake and shingle clad second floor, shallow-hipped roof, an 8-room. It's listed as an 8-room building. Didn't describe whether it was, 6 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms. It just described the rooms. As you see, there's a front entrance, side porch. It didn't have any, as far as residents or other components to this building, there wasn't anybody of historical note or significance that we found. Think of what else. Yeah, so as you'll see, the current condition, it's basically been stripped of the original exterior to the point that I did find a location where the vinyl siding is coming off, and there's a fiberboard clapboard that seems to be throughout the underneath the vinyl, and you can kind of see where the stucco or any of the shingles have been removed, and that was done. I think that was probably in the late 70s is when it was renovated. That kind of cardboardish fiber clapboard, and from the current owner, I believe that's some of the information that was conveyed to him when he purchased it was 1992. The windows have all been basically, I think, replaced within their original openings. Some have been filled in and filled. And it remains a single family. I think it's a 5-bedroom unit currently.
So it's a single family right now?
Yeah. It was generally occupied as a single family from the originating date. Yeah, there haven't been any additions or subtractions from the building. It's generally been that form since, at least from what I found on maps and other documents. And as you can see, the site is generally asphalt, small side yard, but it shares a driveway with 320. So it's actually the only remaining curb cut on that side of Euclid, and they share that driveway to the rear.
Thank you. Comments from the board? Otherwise, I would run through each of the criteria and we could speak to the criteria. We're ready?
Yeah, I would just say this is a really well put together packet of information, so I appreciate the
I got to
depth.
give credit to, is it Maria? Yeah, I was in a bind with trying to get this done, and I had reached out to her to see if she could do some quick turnaround, and she was fantastic.
Yeah,
We exchanged some emails back and forth, and she was
Oh, it's very helpful.
more than helpful.
Very, very thorough.
Wait, Maria, where?
At the historical
At
site,
Georgia.
yeah, she was
Yeah,
fantastic.
She runs the research.
Yep. She had a window to do it right away, so it was,
Yeah, very appreciative.
and I was surprised to find this much on that building. Honestly, it was like, I didn't have any hope that we'd find a picture, maybe something from an aerial. Just, I think I included the aerial in the application, but
So the criteria and designation of protected sites, the Landmark Preservation Board may recommend designation of the property, structure, object, landscape, site, or district if it's found to possess one or more of the following characteristics, and I will run through each one. And I think we should respond to each one so you can record it. Association with persons or events of historic significance to the city, region, state, or nation. I would say no. Based on the list. Illustrative of historic growth and development of city, region, state, or nation
I would say yes on that.
as part of the district is how I would look at it, not as the individual.
Correct.
Okay. In the case of structures or sites embodying a distinctive characteristics of a type, period, or method of construction, or representing the work of a master, or possessing unique architectural and artistic qualities, or representing a significant and distinguishable entity whose components may lack individual distinction, I would say no.
No.
Or in the case of districts possessing a unique overall quality,
That doesn't apply because that's actually talking
The-
about
the
the
whole
designation
district,
of an
okay.
entire district.
and in case of interiors, that does not apply either. So based on the three that do apply,
The three that do apply, and then also it needs to pass that integrity test.
okay, which is B, out of this, in addition to possession of one or more of the characteristics noted above, the property must retain historic integrity or the ability to convey its significance through its location, design, setting, materials, workmanship, feeling, and association. I don't believe so, but
Looks like it's too extensively altered.
I don't believe it either.
My only comment on that is it still represents the residential scale of the neighborhood, of its original design. It hasn't received a third floor addition. It hasn't, it still maintains existing footprint and characteristic hip roof. The scale of it hasn't changed. It still reads as an older structure in the neighborhood, although highly altered.
I'd agree with Jeff also.
Correct, but it's not a significant,
No.
okay.
I agree.
Okay.
That's my point of view on that.
Designation of a protected site shall apply to the exterior of the property, including but not limited to the principal structure and the exterior building components, secondary buildings, and their exterior components and site features, including natural and human-made features.
I think that the
Isn't that it for the
criteria and
criteria?
then just the integrity questions. So
Right.
we'll just need a motion to determine whether or not it should be move forward, or to approve the application. Yeah. The criteria, okay.
So may I have a motion on the criteria?
So it's a two-part test.
Right.
The criteria and then the integrity test, so please include both in your motion.
May I have a motion based on the criteria and integrity? Who would like to make the motion? Someone has to make the motion, not me. I can't.
Tell me how to make the motion.
No? Well, that doesn't help. you.
So,
So-
session, okay.
As chair, I can't make the motion,
Right.
so that's why I'm looking that one of you has to make the motion.
So we're making a motion to, along the three criteria, we as the board are making a motion that it does not meet the criteria designated to become a locally protected site. Excuse me, thank you.
And
And it
Based on
lacks,
integrity.
Is your motion that the subject does not meet the criteria for local designation and also does not retain integrity to become a locally protected site?
Correct.
that would be your motion.
Yeah,
so
that is the motion. So the motion on the floor is that the property does not meet the criteria to become a locally protected site and does not have the integrity to support that criteria to become a locally protected site.
All in favor?
whoops, we need a second.
I second.
Second, sorry.
Oh, sorry, was
You
that Kyle?
second.
Yeah.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions, oppositions?
Aye, both.
So, do I have to vote? I will vote for motion.
To approve the motion, okay.
Motion passes.
Okay,
So are we
so
moving
stay
right into-
up, because now we're gonna go directly to. Oh, sorry, that's me. Sorry. Forgive me. Okay, the next piece of business, new business, is a major site plan review for 318 Euclid Avenue. It is to construct a 7-unit residential structure. It is located, the parcel is located within a National Register Historic District. And the board's role in this is to review and provide comment to zoning related to this application. So with that, I open it back up to you, Jared.
Good morning again. So the new proposed building at 318 Euclid, the first part of this proposal is to expand the site approximately 11 feet to the west. What that does is bring this property in more conformance with what the MX1 zoning class, kind of in that 10,000 square foot range lot size. And in doing that, allowing this about 4,400 square foot, three-story structure to be built. Generally about the same, not same footprint, but in the same location as the original structure. Continuing to use the shared driveway and curb cut off of Euclid to create a driveway and parking to the rear. And then along the front, kind of connecting, bringing the building to the existing kind of front yard setback of the other buildings on that street, and then connecting the city sidewalk with a new entrance, an accessible ramp. Based on MX1, we have to have a 36-inch ground floor because we have ground floor units on the, or residential units on the ground floor. So we're bringing that ramp in to provide accessibility to that ground floor of the building. Similar to what's currently there, we're using the front and the west side to provide landscaping and green space. And then as you continue down back towards the south, where it joins 812, it should be 812 and 814, but just containing more green space, and then adding a little more. There's a couple of things going on with the site over on that side, but just taking over that small parcel of land to the south and utilizing that for green space and storm structure.
Is that part of the property right now?
No, that's part of 302, 314. It's not part of 812 and 814.
That additional depth is being borrowed when they get the 16 feet from the neighboring property.
Correct. Yep. Yeah, currently the corner, that inside corner of 812 and 814 is about where the lot line is. It kind of takes off north.
What you're showing is the new lot line?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And the red line is the setback?
Yes, red lines are setbacks, yep. You can go to, yeah, here you can see the floor plans. Generally, it's, so by zoning, we're allowed 9 units on this. It supports that density, but we didn't feel that was appropriate to try to do that. The goal with these units is to try to make units that have kind of what's going on in the student housing market, where you have every bedroom gets its own bathroom. You've got in-unit laundry. You've got larger kitchens and other kind of common space. And the goal was to get bedrooms that are more in the 12 by 12 range instead of some of the smaller bedrooms that have been kind of being built lately in that are 10 by 10 or 10 by 11. They're trying to step this up so that it's got a great location, but it's trying to add to that those features. So on the ground floor, you have a studio, you got a 1-bedroom, and then you have a 2-bedroom on the east. This floor plan's cut short because we tuck in the parking underneath the building. There's only a small portion of the parking that actually extends beyond the building footprint. As you see here, you'll see where the ramp kind of winds around, connects to the front porch, and then there's a set of stairs, primary stairs that connects to the front sidewalk and the main entrance.
Please zoom out a little bit and show the parking relationship. So for this building, you've got 4 spaces?
Yes. Yep. We're required to have 3.5 according to the zoning ordinance, but we've got 1 accessible and then 3 standard. I'm going to scroll to the next page if you can. So here's the second and third floor. They're identical. They have there's 2 units on each floor. One's a 4, one's a 5. Again, with the expanded kind of kitchen living, with an island and that kind of setup. Every bedroom has its own bathroom and a closet. Everything's got a window, if not multiple windows in each room. And a common stairway that kind of runs the center. Again, the second and third are exactly the same footprint. So 2 units on each one.
On those plans, though, the second and third floor are cantilevered?
Yes. Yeah, the cantilever over the parking.
Can you show us where that line is of what is actually,
I believe it's,
that line?
and then here's the Euclid Ave elevation. Put a strong kind of dominant bay on the one side and set back the other building plane about 4 feet from that front bay. And then as you go to the west, you have your front entrance porch, and then that plane steps back even further. I believe that's about a 10 or 12 foot setback. And then we kind of created this element on the corner just to kind of give that corner some interest instead of just a straight, 90 that kind of seemed to kind of fade off a little too much for what we were looking to do. Creates kind of an interesting piece for the, in floor plan, but also on the elevation. And then that further to on the west side, the right side of this elevation is the back piece. That's another probably 24 feet or so, maybe even further. And that's where that bump out is then 20, I think it's 24 feet in depth, and then that's the corner where the parking starts. And to the left, the east, is where you have the shared driveway with 320. And the materials are basically, a fiber cement, clapboard, shake, and panel and trim with double hung windows, in single and multiple groupings. They're showing a little darker. We were looking at more of a, I can't remember what the Marvin color is, but it's not black. It was more of in the brownish tone.
Shake, like is it shake siding? Or you're just talking about
Yeah, so it's not really showing very well.
that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, so if you look close, so this
Oh, okay.
is kind of a cream beige. All of that.
That is okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, and I wasn't clear whether that was just focusing on the trim or the.
Yeah, that picture's not, but it actually shows the. But it wouldn't be the stagnant. They have an option. Straight edge finish. Yeah, you can see on the left.
Yeah.
And then you have on the left there, that's the rear elevation that's facing 812 and 814. You can kind of see we have see the top of a little car that's stuck in there just as a reference. There's a fence and a small retaining wall just because of the grade drops off a little bit between 812 Livingston and this property. Parking tucked in, we've got that fence. And then you see on the right, that's the east elevation facing the shared driveway. Kind of pulled these just two small elements out just to give some additional space to the floor plan and create kind of an element. Just kind of break up that facade, to what we could. And then there's your, that's the west elevation. You see that kind of gabled end of the porch roof that's covering the ramp and the front entrance. And then towards the back, towards the south, you see where the parking kind of tucks in underneath and where the ground floor stops. Again, continuing, that's the same materials. The green being the clapboards with a kind of a flared skirting separating the first and second floor line. Yeah, and just additional renderings of what that looks like from the street. And I did, yeah. So Kate asked for a picture or an elevation or sketch of what, in relation to 320, which is at the very last page.
There we go.
That's kind of the shape and profile of that existing 320 structure. And that is a 3-story, originally built structure. I believe it was a sorority or fraternity when it was when it was built.
Okay.
Based on this rendering, the ridge of your building is higher than the one on the left.
Maybe only by like 4 inches.
That's pretty close.
Okay, well, I just want to know.
No, no.
Okay. Comments from the board? Questions?
I think you've done a nice job breaking up the mass of the building and trying to bring the scale down, but we're still dealing with a 3-story building. And my previous comment on the existing structure, it meets the scale, and I appreciate this this drawing that's showing here with the scale of the adjacent building. Can we talk a little about floor plate height? Is there any wiggle room in that? Are we at minimums or minimums for?
We have 9-foot ceilings, finished ceilings, on all floors,
Okay.
and that was kind of the goal for that. It also allows us to drop some mechanicals where needed below that, and not encroach any less than keeping an 8-foot ceiling or soffit height
Yeah,
internally.
your first floor is noted at 10.6.
I think that's from floor to floor.
Okay.
So you have a 9-foot clear
You have a
ceiling
9-foot
Yeah.
clear.
with 18 inches.
Is that based on your construction?
Yes.
I would probably support that idea as well, is if we can bring the scale down just a bit. Maybe it's 8'6" ceiling height, which would bring everything down. I understand that you need interstitial space, the 18 inches plus or minus for, ductwork and structure. But if we could bring the scale down a little bit, because there is precedent to have 3 stories. So I don't take issue with that. I just think from looking at the rendering, if I can somehow manipulate the facade in terms of its massing and bring it down a scale, and that might, it sounds like inches, but it probably will make a difference.
Yep. I mean, the easiest solution would be to drop the 3rd floor ceiling to 8 feet. I mean, that's 12 inches right there. It would.
And I think that would truly help,
Mhm.
because it would bring down, the datum line at the roof edge.
Mhm.
Any other comments? I know it says sage green on here. I mean, I look at these and they're more beige and that's green, so obviously colors need to be, bring in samples for Kate.
Yeah, I think the rendering should show a little better than those.
Yeah, well, that's
Yeah,
why I said
yeah.
it, because the printout is pretty beige. And rather than the green, so I'm like, and yes, the color says sage green, that,
Yeah, the
But-
rendering, again, the elevations are a little off, but
Right.
the renderings show that a little more clearly, so
but if you know
I can
paint
clean that up.
companies, they say certain names, but that doesn't necessarily mean the color.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Evokes the color.
and do you have comments? I know you had one earlier.
You said you need to be 36 inches off grade for zoning?
Yeah, for
zoning
MX1,
compliance?
yeah, it says that if you have ground floor units, you need to elevate that ground floor to at least 36 inches above.
You can apply for a variance for
Yeah, we're trying to avoid any,
Okay.
extra request or.
Just a clarification, I make sure I heard you right. Keeping a clear eave line around the building, if you were to articulate that, that would feel like the roof structure is lower, but then now you're adapting your cornice lines. And that could give an interesting silhouette to especially the sides of the buildings where it's just kind of long. But that would again give that scale, bringing it down, kind of making it appear as if it was a converted attic rather than a full-blown 3rd floor.
I did play with that as doing kind of more of a, I don't want to say like a mansard, but you took and try to, build that 3rd floor into that. But you started losing a little too much floor space to make certain things work.
Depends how you're going to insulate.
Yeah, yeah. It just became a much more challenging.
And if lowering that top floor to 8 foot,
I think that actually, by design, that actually makes more sense too.
Mhm.
Because it would be treated, an attic floor would be treated at a lower level, so theoretically, that also makes sense and that would help with the scale.
Yeah, and we don't need the
Exactly.
mechanical soffits on the third floor because everything can come from the attic. So that's typically what we've kind of helped do with.
Is there access to the attic?
Yeah, there'll be an access in the corridor.
The only other comment I think you mentioned earlier is double check code in terms of, having one stair allowable. I know you don't need an elevator because you're 3 stories,
fully sprinkled, probably.
Yeah, it's fully sprinkled. Yep.
fully sprinkled,
Yeah.
and then the second exit, I assume you're assuming the window.
Yeah, for emergency escape and egress. yeah.
Right, so, as presented, I mean, I don't know what the size are, but double check because there are requirements for opening for, if you're using the window for egress.
Yep.
And
Yeah, they're all
if-
within the 5.7 square feet.
Okay.
Single hung, all units are single hung?
Yes.
Operable?
Yes. Yep.
Kind of nice to have the option of double hung, but
It's a severe maintenance issue with the kids. We've done that, and we've had to fix in other properties. Had to just go in and put the sash restrictions to fit because they don't push them up, or it's just led to.
The only other question I'll have, and it's not my preview to decide structurally, you're cantilevering 2 stories,
Mhm.
and that's a long span from the back wall to.
Yeah, if you look at
those columns.
if you go to the ground floor,
Yeah, okay.
there's a section of exterior wall. I'll say.
Yeah.
No, we saw that.
We
It
saw
short-
that.
It
It's
shortens that
just-
out. Initially, the sizing there's an 18-inch steel beam that runs from. This is our greatest.
Right. How big are those, I guess, the columns?
In between the
In
parking
between.
spaces.
Yeah.
Those are 18 by 18 concrete with steel posts.
And you're,
Okay, so they've got a concrete base that's elevated.
right, so what's your width of your parking, 9 feet?
It's like 8.6.
8.6? Be careful as you park.
Yeah. And the only access to that parking for pedestrian purposes is just via the driveway.
Parking lot up, continue that accessible slope, and that created that difference.
is that still a shared driveway?
Yes, we saw.
Yeah, your property 320. This looks restricted in that corner. I allowed you an additional green space. Obviously, you have a larger lot now, and you have additional green spaces, less asphalt, so that's nice to see as well. Other than that, I think I'm all right. I don't have anything else.
With respect to the original building, did your team discuss using the historic tax credits and making the original building work with possibly an addition? on that site?
We did not look at that. We didn't think that there was enough there to, it would have limited the expansion to the point that it wasn't economically, feasible for them.
Are there any structural integrity issues with the current building?
I believe there's been a few things that have happened. There've been a few roof leaks and a couple other things that have kind of happened over the years that it hasn't been occupied in, I think, almost 2.5 years.
So mostly maintenance issues, but nothing that
Yeah.
would need it to be torn down for safety reasons
No.
or danger? Okay.
Will there be, on the underside, excuse me, lighting
For the parking?
Area.
for the parking area?
Yes.
Because it's kind of cavernous, especially
Yes.
since the back wall has no windows, and I understand why there are no windows, because that could be a maintenance issue. But you're gonna have to be sure that you don't have any light bleed. But then again, you do need lighting, so. Any other comments? Because, I mean, that's, our charge is just a comment.
Yep.
Hillary, you good?
Good.
Okay. Thank you.
Good notes?
Yep. Good notes.
Thank you.
Thanks so much. All right. So the final application on the agenda today is major site plan review modification, 70103 East Fayette Street. This is modification. It's 24-17 M1. This is a revision to the design of the apartment building that is located right next to 711 East Fayette Street, which is a local protected site, the former AME Zion Church.
Thank you. Brian Bouchard with CHA, so we're the project engineer, and I also have Jess Sudol, who's the president with Passero Engineering and Architects, as the project architect with us. If we could just go to the first page, right there, previously approved project. So this was last year. It was like April and May. We visited this board and the Planning Commission. The project was fully approved, but what I'll do is just take 30 seconds to remind you of what we're doing and why. And this is the previously approved project, so I'll kind of start here just for context and background. This is the Gateway Syracuse project, so it's a mixed-use residential apartment project. It's at the corner of Fayette and Almond in the MX5 zoning district, and you guys will recall some of the renderings and even the mentioning by the mayor in his State of the City address last year, highlighting this project as sort of the kickoff to the Syracuse Surge and Housing Initiative as we look for a post-Viaduct 81 and sort of the vibrancy of Almond Street becoming, this mixed-use corridor as that elevated bridge comes down. So we did previously go through your board for landmark preservation and the Planning Commission last year, recalling that our design team did make some adjustments particular to the corner and massing and scale of that building directly adjacent to the Zion Church. Also noting that obviously, as Kate mentioned, none of the properties that are actually being developed are historic or protected, and that really this is our opportunity to seek your referral with our next step being the Planning Commission related to just the adjacency of our project to that church. So why are we here is really, since your positive referral last time, we did get approvals from the Planning Commission. This, in terms of zoning entitlements, is really the final step in zoning entitlements, but it's the first step in like kicking off what is the sequence of securing investors and financing and construction costs. So throughout the last 8 or 10 months, we have gone through those exercises, working with general contractors to come up with a total project cost. And also the appetite of those, caps of costs for investors, et cetera. Interest rates all play into this too. So really what we have done is tried to reduce the overall cost of the building. And the purpose of us reapplying, if you can just, take a photograph of this in your mind and then sort of scroll down to the current project, is twofold. Using less land, so there's less land cost. We've essentially not developed, and we have no contract to purchase that other lot that's to the east of the Zion and the Exo Taco properties. So we've reduced the footprint and size of the building to make the construction costs more efficient. That easterly wing was very narrow. It was also causing issues with things like egress path and proximity of residents to the other streetscape and amenity areas that are on the westerly wing. So this was an easy choice to reduce the overall cost of the project by eliminating that easterly wing, both in terms of construction, foundation, and also the land value over there. So that's one, is reducing the easterly wing. Number two is that this building still is 7 stories above grade, but this was previously a slab-on-grade building. What we have done is still kept it 7 stories, but we've added a basement level. This has gotten into our advancement of the brownfield cleanup program. As with any prominent corner on Almond and Fayette back in the 40s and 50s, there was a gas station there. And although those properties are now vacant, We have performed both Phase 1 and Phase 2 environmental investigations and determined that there is a source of contamination, which is the old gas station soils and sites. And in formally now being accepted into the brownfield cleanup program, this is counterintuitive, but the cost of actually excavating and providing basement foundations allows us a greater, excuse me, allows us a greater, maybe I talked too loud to begin with, I don't know.
No,
It allows us a different track, it's called Track 2, to access greater amounts of the brownfield cleanup tax credit program. So although the costs are higher for the project, the reimbursements for the cleanup are greater, which balances our overall total construction costs and also has the inherent benefit, instead of essentially mitigating and leaving those soils in place, physically being able to remove them and send them to landfill in a properly constructed way with all the oversight of the DEC. So those are really the two project changes, taking off the east wing and then also adding a basement level. You know, really what we have done here is kind of, you know, gone through some of the planning exercises and still meeting zoning, so we're still compliant with the MX5 zoning district. We still have the 7 stories, same uses, same building materials, you know, consistent with the light and dark bricks and light and dark fiber cement and some copper penny accents. In doing this, we had the advantage of having your comments that we addressed last time. So there has been some smaller adjustments, and what we hope, and I'll go through sort of the 4 or 5 bullet points on not only having maintained what you guys requested before, but some of the additional things that we've done that I think just have lessened the impact in sort of encapsulating those church and EXO properties. So if we could go to, there's a, oh no, this one's good. You know, these are some of the perspectives that we were looking at before if you zoomed into where the church was. We were asked, first of all, to take the 7-story building and step it down to 6 stories as we approach that last bay of the building. So that's still relevant. That'll offer also a good reduction in massing for that full volume of the 6th floor on the corner, and also a nice terrace area for residents to use as an amenity. We're also maintaining the notch, which is actually further down. This notch that we talked about, where we took out one of the corner beds, was actually occurring at the 3rd level before. Because we did have another level of parking. This was 2 levels of parking before. So we actually, that was meeting almost, I don't want to call it a spire, but whatever this projection of the church is with the little steeple that's there. Steeple or spire, it's not very tall, but we brought that down to match the 3rd level, and I think architecturally what we've done is brought that down another level to the 2nd floor, because we now have that opportunity with the res level being slightly lower. So we did maintain both the 6-story step down and also that notch directly on the corner. The building has not moved. I mentioned to Kate, she asked if we had to move the building closer to get the same unit counts that we had before. Nominally, it's 4 inches. It's like 10 to 14 feet as you traverse the property line that we're away from the building. So it is actually 4 inches closer, but in terms of the comparison to the 14 feet that we have, it's considered, you know, generally the same. Was the intent to make sure we have the same setback, that 6th floor step, and then the 2nd floor notch. So really the other things that we did are we deleted half the building, right? So I think in terms of impacts, that easterly wing being deleted kind of improves lessens the impact to these other properties as well. And then the second, which you may or may not have noticed, is again, we had 2 floors of parking that were surrounding the interior, call it courtyard space. And because that 2nd level is now a res level, we have brought down that garage aesthetic. So there's less of a blank wall, and we have more opportunity for glazing and architectural fenestration there. So we are in front of the Planning Commission for their meeting, and hope that we can get your comments and feedbacks kind of adhering to those comments, and then maybe also even lessening the impacts for the project as we move forward with the Planning Commission.
Can you tell us the unit change from the first
Yeah,
proposal to
so
the
the unit count before was 291 residential units. We now have 259 residential units. So it is a reduction in units, but again, this is still better by way of cost of construction versus future revenue projections in terms of their pro forma.
Far more dense. Smaller footprints, more dense.
Yeah, really the advantage was taking parking and putting it on a basement level. And that added the units to the 2nd level, which did not fully balance the project in terms of revenue on the east wing, but it helped get to a point where the ratios were better and more palatable to investors. So we went through, you can see here, like, these are the axon views that we
This is
provided
great.
before. So we had before and after to show that there's more openings, obviously not encumbering that easterly property. And then because I didn't want to flip back and forth, because I didn't know I had assistance from Ivana here, the last page I added, which is really just snippets of sort of those prominent befores and afters, which should be the last page. Yeah, again, so, you know, some of those
Yeah,
perspectives.
that's, actually, it's helpful for us to see the before and after.
Yeah, and what I was trying to point out here was two things. One is that this was already at the 6th level, and one of your final comments was, thanks for dropping the 7th floor, but let's notch this corner to at least get down to this elevation. And I think both materiality and bringing this down again makes our building look more symmetrical and also raises the perception of that steeple area. And then also, you can also see, you know, this isn't showing some of the openings where we had added some fake grass and stuff, but there was a big volume just because of the garage, and you can see over here that that's been reduced and there's a little bit more glazing and penetration. So that was kind of the before and after. The bottom one was really just a perspective view showing some of that, you know, the same massing. I think what we've done is kind of brought this building down a little bit. On the
So
corner.
the distance between the church and your building is still the same?
Yeah, it's the same. Actually, it's the same when you look at just the line to the church, but it is a little bit wider here. This is kind of covered up with the steeple, but you can see there is a piece that we did bump in even further, so it's like, it's between 10 and 14 feet, depending on which corner you take.
Right.
But we have not encroached any further. Again, nominally, it's like 3 or 4 inches is what I measured, but we haven't gotten any closer to the church itself. That distance is needed. Obviously, we have a 0 setback, but the distance is needed just to construct the building, put shoring walls, and make sure that we don't have any impact to the adjacent properties, whether they were brand new construction or historic, regardless. So.
Your two-story podium reduction makes a huge difference as we look at this, as we look at 711 East Fayette. So that scale that you're talking about right there is utmost important to me, and the detailing of the corner that we previously approved, as you just mentioned. Now we match the height of the bell tower, and it gives deference to the church. So I appreciate that balcony space that's open there, and then at that 3rd floor, it sets back. It looks there's like there's a balcony space there, and it sets back, giving it more breathing room, and allowing that church tower still to be seen as you're on the street. You can still look down, and it's not blocked. Specifically looking east.
East, yep.
The removal of that entire third of the building just really releases this property and the adjacent Exo Taco structure. Really, I mean, before it felt kind of smothered. This change just absolutely blows it out of the water.
The church was swallowed.
And now it's back to being in the sight line of the streetscape. So kudos to the team on adjusting your scale at that interface, and then just based on economics, this change is immense and in the right direction as we look at 711 East Fayette.
So you guys just aren't buying that other lot now, right?
Correct.
So that could still be a project proposed in the
It
future,
could,
but it's
yeah.
not something you guys are.
It is also still MX5. Obviously, it could be developed similarly, but it would be different because the properties wouldn't be formally combined. So there would presumably still be gaps between the buildings and some other things. The building may also look different, right? Whereas we couldn't necessarily
That was going to be my
make
plan.
it look totally different because
Right.
it's part of the same building. And if you do have a new project, maybe the height and some of the massing things are still a recommendation, but maybe the building looks completely different and you have a different aesthetic along the street. So, yeah, good point noted, right? It could still be developed. It's just not part of our project.
One component, that the structure on East Washington that's coming down,
Yeah, the old office building, yeah.
yeah, that's actually a component. It was a gymnasium for Smith Corona. I found that later after all that. So it's a vestige of Bat Corporation's legacy along East Water and East Washington Street.
Yeah.
And that's integral to this project, but it's a, you know, concrete reinforced, clear span gymnasium. Pretty big structure.
Kate, our role is just to comment. Any other comments?
No.
I think it's moving in
think
the
it's a
right
big
direction.
improvement,
Pretty positive reaction. It kind of releases the church from captivity.
Very good.
Enclosure.
Yeah.
Well, you know, when you compare them side by side, you can see a huge difference.
Yeah.
And there were subtle changes in terms of scale on either end of the building, and that really helps in terms of the mass of the entire building.
Wonderful. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kate.
That is all I have. Board?
Meeting. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you, everybody.
There you go.
This is from 1909. Colton did the church.
You probably already knew that, but.
Is that chimney there?
Yeah, chimney's gone.
Yeah, the chimney's gone and that's changed, the bell tower is changed.
Yeah.
That's reduced. All right.
Okay,
Thank you. I gotta rush back to work.
okay.
Have an interview meeting coming in.